Definitely resonates with me in the sense that, you know, this traditional sense of what materials are valued over others, like, you know, bronze or silver or gold. I like the idea that a piece of plastic or a piece of wood can have the same value just depending on what context it's used in, you know, where it is, where it's placed, how it's used. So there's definitely some inspiration and resonation from that movement, yeah. I wouldn't say that the local materials influence the process. I think the process is probably similar to wherever I'm making the work, but it sort of fits that I would use close line materials. You know, if you consider that the objects are representative of survival tools, then it would just make sense that the materials are made from the near vicinity. Yeah. I mean, I feel great about being part of this program, you know. I'm super stoked and happy to have been included. As concerns to how the Arte Povera movement looked at it, in that sense, I wouldn't say that I'm challenging anything with the commercial aspect of it, because, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm an artist, and it's my intention to make things to sell, to live off, you know. I've had God knows how many different jobs, and making art and sculptures is definitely the best of them all. Yeah. Those objects, I was quite focused on certain things to do with not just, I wasn't so only concerned with making an art object, you know. I was also trying to talk about certain things in the world, like waste, production, industry, you know, overproduction, overfishing, you know, resources. And in a way, those works were influenced by my upbringing in Fiji. I remember when I was younger writing a paper on the depleted oceans. And that was already in the early 90s, you know. So I made the Barents Sea, this fish trap made from PVC piping, and I was trying to echo the same ways they made fish traps with bamboo. So, you know, I used plastic pipes that I had found that were either already damaged or not being used. The collaboration with Sverre was, you know, a turning point for me as an artist. It was my first show in Oslo after school. And so I learned a lot working with someone like Sverre. Fijian culture, you know, it has quite a rich history in in storytelling through patterns and dance and, you know, carvings. So it definitely, at least with what I'm gonna show here at Vestfossen, it will be more obvious in some of these patterns I plan on drawing around the sculptures with the stones. Yeah. Also just the crafting of tools itself. I guess every culture has that. But I remember growing up, you know, many of these tools and stuff were, when they were not in use, they were also placed in the home in like a spot where it's like, this is where we put the fishnet, you know, and just the works themselves were intricate, beautiful objects, you know, the weaving and stuff like that. So I think there's definitely some influence there. Yeah. The hedonistic and the ritual aesthetics in my work are definitely present, especially this time around. There's definitely inspiration from the pagan sites and holy sites. There's also this question of whether religion inspires my work. I would not say religion per se, but I would say the iconography of religion and the ritualism within also modern religion definitely inspires my work. Yeah. Like what I'm making now is very, I have intentionally leaned into this shamanistic ritual visual expression with the idea that, you know, this idea of how you clean water with concerns to the water filters can be seen as a knowledge that not everyone would possess, but maybe in ancient times, the person who possessed that knowledge would be the man of knowledge or the woman of knowledge. And maybe they would create a site, you know, where they would go to this special site to clean your water, you know. Same maybe with like this, if you had a tool for making fire, which is one of the tools you guys have of mine from that show at Billedhuggerforening. You know, the person who can make fire would be the person who has authority or power. Yeah. And there might be some ritual surrounding just the making of the fire. Some of them function better than others, but I would say that the intention is for them to function. You know, they are functioning. I have made fire with them. I have cleaned water with them. I haven't killed any animals with them, though. But the idea is, you know, if you look at the works as tools of survival for either a prehistoric time or a future dystopian time, or then it would only fit that they functioned. Yeah. Well, you know, as the term dystopia has been used to describe my work, like dystopia as a backdrop, I think that's an important distinction, that dystopia is a backdrop. it's not the theme of my work. And this word dystopia, you know, it's generally understood as a situation that is either futuristic or dystopia as in fantasy or sci-fi, for example. Whereas, you know, you could go to almost any corner of the earth and you will be met with dystopia. You know, you name the continent, you will find people living in dystopia. People without clean water right next door to somebody with everything. So dystopia, as it pertains to my work, I see it more as the state of how some people are living now. I see it as a state of how I lived growing up in a country like Fiji, you know, with huge class differences. I was on the lower class. You know, so dystopia is a current state rather than a future state, I would think. And my comment on that is to highlight the fact that, yeah, right now there's some child living in dystopia. You know, a refugee camp is dystopia. You have a telephone, but you don't have food, you know. You can FaceTime someone in this refugee camp, but you know, you got to line up for hours to get your water. It seems like a dystopian universe, you know. For me, the fragility of my objects and the vulnerability of my objects is, in a way, I wouldn't know if it's a comment or a reflection of the fragility of life itself, of the fragility of the structures that we live in, that we take for granted, you know. You need to go to Oslo to catch a train. You go to the train station, the train's waiting. That's a structure, you know. But sometimes you're on the train and it don't move because something happened on the line. You have no idea. You couldn't fix that structure. So to me, that's a fragile structure, you know, but something we take for granted. Water running through the city, you know, it's infrastructure, but it's still a structure that, you know, it's run on a grid system. Just, you know, we talked the other day about watching this program on these astronauts, and they look down on the planet Earth. And this vast nothing, right? And that's a fragile, the Earth itself is a fragile structure, you know. So, you know, when I first started my studies as a bachelor, I worked primarily with steel and welding and building these solid structures. So I moved away from that as I progressed through my studies. But you know, I see everything as quite fragile, you know. But we're so used to living in these bodies and using the infrastructure that we don't consider it so much. So the sculptures I make, and especially this time, have been intended as much as possible to be fragile, to give you this sense of vulnerability. To have this residency in Vestfossen artistically has been amazing, eye-opening, extremely, what would I say, the residency here has given me a bit of perspective on how I work and what I'm doing. You know, it's given me the opportunity to spend more time with the objects I'm making. And when you have a studio in the city, you go to the studio, you work intensely for some hours, you close the studio, you lock the door, and you turn the switch on, and you're back to being daddy, you know, you're back to making dinner, you know, you're being the neighbor. And this art is locked away in a room somewhere, you know, and then you have to wait and come back to it. Whereas here I have literally lived, breathed, and existed with the art. You know, I moved the bed downstairs into the main room. So when I fell asleep at night, I fell asleep looking at the structures I was building. And when I woke up in the morning, the first thing I saw was the structures I was building. So, and it first forced me to be constantly working, because I couldn't just ignore them, you know. It felt extremely natural to just exist in this world where, you know, all I was focused on was just creating and moving around these objects. You know, the residency here productively has been great, in the sense that, you know, the freedom you guys have given me to just be here producing whatever I want to produce, and that they are going to be shown, has freed me up in just making things, and also has just freed me up to try new ways of working. Like, all the objects are slightly made differently. So I've made these water filters, right? But some of them are tied with a knot that is pretty good, and others are tied with a knot that is a bit different from the other knot. You know, because I'm just trying out what works best, you know, learning as I go. So that's been great, you know, the residence here, to finally understand what it is to be a full-time artist. You know, it's just been amazing. Personally, to be here has been quite difficult. You know, I have a small family, and to have so many days away from your child and your partner is difficult. And then the last period now, I've been here 2 weeks without being home. You know, I was supposed to go home, but they got put in quarantine, so if I went home, then that meant I couldn't come back. So on an emotional and personal level, it was difficult. You know, I think the more interesting question is, what does it hold for everyone? You know, that question in this time with what's going on. Shit, I don't know who can answer that. You know? But concrete plans, I would say I'm moving on to another exhibition after this one. Another similar residency, but I'll be able to go home at night, you know. And to take this experience to the next one, I think will be so valuable. I have some other projects going on. I'm in the middle of a book project that I've been writing for 2 years. by hand. So hopefully after the summer I can finish that, just continue working and hopefully to work full-time as an artist. Yeah.